În acest videoclip vei avea ocazia să urmărești un interviu pe care am avut onoarea să îl am cu directorul Muzeului William Tyndale din Vilvorde, Belgia. Este vorba de reverendul Willy Willems. Muzeul se află chiar pe locul în care William Tyndale a fost închis într-o celulă și a lucrat acolo la traducerea Vechiului Testament, într-un loc extrem de strâmt și în condiții foarte grele. Acest muzeu nu se află departe de locul în care William Tyndale a fost în cele din urmă executat în fața Bisericii Catolice din Vilvorde.
"40 years ago, I was the reverend of this parish. Being the reverend of this parish, I would say, as William Tyndale, one of our most important questions is how to diffuse the Bible and the reality of our church being. This context, we had the opportunity that in '86 we could commemorate the death of William Tyndale. And the death of William Tyndale is not only a commemoration, it's also a kind of education, because in Vilvorde, in this town, nobody knows that there was a monument or for English translator of the Bible.
Muzeul William Tyndale a fost înființat de reverendul Willy Willems în anul 1986 la cea de-a 450-a comemorare a martirajului lui William Tyndale. Iată ce ne spune dânsul despre începuturile acestui proiect.
That monument was put in Vilvorde by asking of the Trinitarian Bible Society, who said, we have several monuments of William Tyndale, but we don't have a monument on the place where he died. That's the first reason that they went to our town authorities and asked for this monument. The authorities had no problem, because in the beginning of the 20th century it was still interesting to make monument of important persons. And Vilvorde had no very important persons inside this town, even a medicine, but they agree.
Acum urmează partea interesantă, și anume că Biserica Romano-Catolică nu a fost atât de încântată să aibă în fața bisericii sale un monument prin care să promoveze un eretic care a îndrăznit să traducă Biblia în limba poporului.
So by studying, we had to put this monument in front of the Roman Catholic Church, because we have a document who said that the execution was between the enter of the town, the Roman Catholic Church, and the castle. So the place was well known. At the moment that the bishop understands that they were working on a monument, but on a monument of a heretic person, they said, impossible. We can have that monument in front of our church, because he is a heretic and we can promote his presence in presence of our church. So at that moment, the local authority said, where would we put it? And it was not so difficult for them to know where they put it. In the past, Vilvorde was protected by a water around the town. But they filled it up and there was nothing in that area. So they said, we put it just out of town, and there nobody can make an objection.
Desigur că biserica nu voia să aibă un monument al unei persoane considerate eretice. Acest monument este un martor împotriva abuzurilor și violenței pe care Biserica Romano-Catolică a manifestat-o față de cei care au fost iubitori de Biblie, de Dumnezeu și de oameni. Să ascultăm în continuare ce ne spune reverendul Willy Willems despre motivul pentru care a apărut această traducere a lui William Tyndale.
But at the same time, he was very interesting in the history of church, and particularly the movements, let's say, the kind of reforming movements in the Middle Age. After ending his study, being theologian, there were two possibilities: entering directly in church, or most of them went as teachers in schools or families. Teaching the family, he had also the opportunity as theologian for preaching in the neighbors of the manor, and at that moment he had his, let's say, not only first contacts, but always his first reaction by discussion that his ideas were not really enclosed by what the church asked from him. When I say that he had other ideas, I think that must be one of the motivations to say, all right, I will study by my Bible what's right and what is not right. So he began to translate the New Testament. In the history of the translations of the Bible, most of the translations begins by the New Testament. There is an origin for making that translation. There was an edition of the Greek New Testament made by Erasmus, and that translation of that edition was used by the modern theologian at that moment. Not only William Tyndale, Luther, Olivetan, others take the opportunity to use the better edition of the Greek New Testament, because after the Latin translation, the Vulgate, they still make editions of the Greek New Testament. So since the 3rd century, just at the 16th century, there were no other editions of the New Testament in Greek. It was a renovation of Erasmus to make it, and he did it because he was a 16th intellectual who said we must return to our sources, to our history, and go back. But go back and knowing at that moment we can make it by ourselves. One of the things that Luther make is alphabetization. To make a translation and nobody can read it, they have no sense. By translating, you invite your people also to learn to read, and by reading you make a new possibility in the education of people. So the movement is more than simply translating a Bible, but that they translate the Bible is important. It was the most important book. The printers said, if we can print a book and sell a book, then we must sell a book who will be revolutionary and who will be taken and read. So the Bible was the book that many people want to have. In the beginning of the history, when we have the first heretics in the history, most of the time some people who were considered as heretics weren't heretics. It was interesting, if you have money enough, to buy a book, the first printing books, and most of the time it was the Bible that they had. And the church say, oh, you have a translation of the Bible, or you are an heretic.
Iată deci care este motivul reformei protestante. Problema bisericii este că a manifestat autoritate asupra conștiinței umane. Nimeni și nicio instituție nu trebuie să manifeste autoritate asupra conștiinței umane. Aceasta trebuie să fie raportată doar la Dumnezeu și la Sfânta Scriptură.
For the church, the Roman Catholic Church, as at that moment, it was an opportunity that there was a translation who wasn't understood by the common people. So the church could make his let's say, power system by the misunderstanding and not understanding of the Bible for the common people. So you find in the history of the church all kinds of ideas and all kinds of interpretations who are simply ecclesiology interpretations of the church and not interpretations by the theology. That's the problem that we will have in the centuries who progressed. Direction of the church at many places in Europe was no. Don't translate. We have a translation, and as church we will help you to understand that translation. Understand that translation means that we will say what you have to do and what you have to think.
Biserica a pretins capacitatea de a expune și a explica adevărul. Însă studierea Sfintei Scripturi ne descoperă că de multe ori acest adevăr a fost o minciună.
And in the 16th centuries, there are inside of the church several people who said, "It's enough. We don't continue on that way because we know, we understand, we read other things in the Bible, and we don't still accept what church say, we simply will accept what the Bible say." William Tyndale make as one of the translator his translation in English. But making a translation in English in the 16th means that you need to find several new words who wasn't used daily. So he make an English languages. One of the most interesting person who used the English of William Tyndale is William Shakespeare. His English is based on the English of William Tyndale. His importance is, and that's Henry VIII, I hope that he don't know it, but what Henry VIII tried to have is a better contact with Europe and even to conquerize a part of Europe. He couldn't realize it, but William Tyndale did it, because by his translation and his work here on the continent and the extending in his own country, they make a way of understanding the Bible. We are children of the Reformation. We are children of the Emancipation. We are children of the 16th. And it's our duty to help our world in continuing on that way.
Noi trebuie să continuăm acest drum pe care l-am moștenit, al reformei, a întoarcerii la Scriptură, la origini.
William Tyndale said, but I want to have a prince. I want that my people learn and read the Bible. At that moment the church say, oh, he was condemned by the bishop, so he is also a dangerous man for our church. They sent 2 professors of the University of Leuven, and they make an interrogation on William Tyndale. And what was the result of that meeting? Both said, it's difficult for us to find errors on this man. He is an honest man. But if the church will condemn him, we have to agree. But we will be clement. We will burn him directly. We will first of all struggle him, and then we will burn him. That's what's happening in Vilvorde.
Dar William Tyndale nu este primul și nici ultimul dintre persoanele care au fost executate prin autoritatea bisericii. Sunt mii de oameni care au fost uciși pentru că au stat de partea adevărului. Acest lucru ne vorbește despre cât de departe poate să meargă biserica pentru a-și susține supremația și mai ales atunci când ea are și putere civilă. Despre lucrarea celui rău prin Biserica apostată descoperim cuvintele apostolului Ioan în Apocalipsa la capitolul 13, unde ni se spune în felul următor, la versetul 7: I s-a dat să facă război cu sfinții și să-i biruiască și i s-a dat stăpânire peste orice seminție, peste orice norod, peste orice limbă și peste orice neam. Și toți locuitorii pământului îi se vor închina, toți aceia al căror nume n-a fost scris de la întemeierea lumii în cartea vieții mielului care a fost junghiat. Biblia ne spune că cei care vor să trăiască cu evlavie pentru Hristos vor fi prigoniți. Unde sunt astăzi oamenii ca Tyndale, care să stea drepți în picioare înaintea oricărei împotriviri din dragoste și pasiune pentru adevăr? Astăzi avem prea multă lașitate în rândul celor care se numesc creștini. Avem un creștinism diluat care promovează valorile acestei lumi. Cine vrea să-și scape viața și din lașitate stă în banca lui fără să promoveze standardul Scripturii, își va pierde viața, spune Domnul Iisus Hristos. Dar dimpotrivă, cine își va pierde viața pentru Hristos, de fapt o va câștiga. Cartea Apocalipsei, la capitolul 13, ne dezvăluie adevărul cu privire la cea de-a doua fiară care se ridică din pământ, și anume Statele Unite ale Americii. Aceasta va face o icoană fiarei sau un chip al fiarei dintâi, adică își va face o imagine la fel ca fiara dintâi, unind puterea civilă cu cea religioasă și va impune astfel legi care vor veni împotriva legii lui Dumnezeu. Această putere mondială va iniția persecuția în dreptul celor care vor sta de partea adevărului, cei care sunt numiți în Sfânta Scriptură rămășița femeii. Împotriva lor, balaurul a pornit să facă război prin toate uneltele sale. I s-a dat putere să dea suflare icoanei fiarei, ca icoana fiarei să vorbească și să facă să fie omorâți toți cei ce nu se vor închina icoanei fiarei. Aici însă este răbdarea sfinților care păzesc poruncile lui Dumnezeu și au credința lui Isus. Totuși, cartea Apocalipsei ne dezvăluie deznodământul în Apocalipsa 13:10. Cine duce pe alții în robie, va fi și el dus în robie. Cine ucide cu sabia, trebuie ca și el să fie ucis cu sabia. Aici este răbdarea și credința sfinților. Sabia cuvântului lui Dumnezeu va distruge minciuna și pe mincinos. Așa că rămâi ancorat în Sfânta Scriptură. Și dacă ești interesat să afli cine este femeia care s-a îmbrăcat în purpură și stacojiu, îți las aici un videoclip. Ne vedem acolo.